Hi, everybody. It's Janet Eichhorst and Jill Renee Feeler here. We are on episode 34 of our podcast series. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Janet. Hi, everybody. How are you, Janet?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Wow. So, this is what I was thinking.
Okay,
I know you just came off a retreat.
I did.
Yes. And we record these in advance. So we're a little bit early for that in terms of when it comes out, and there's a
Yeah.
delay there. But what I was thinking about is retreats typically are so profound for everybody, and I'm
Mm,
sure everyone had an incredible experience just because I know who you are.
mm.
And what I would love to hear is about your personal transformation. Because we think about, here we are to serve, so to speak, right? To help everybody else be their brightest selves. But we get to have these profound experiences. And sometimes when we talk about those, they allow everyone else to have a greater insight into possibilities and greater experiences for themselves. And
I
you don't
would
have
love.
to. This,
What was
this is,
that?
I said, you don't have to. This is just an
No,
option.
no, no, no. I gratefully accept the opportunity. So, how did it transform me? Is that right? About my
Yes.
transformation? Okay, as the host and facilitator and messenger for this experience. So, I think if I were to try and summarize, which you and I both know is
Mm,
it's challenging to summarize, but I will try and I want to try. I
mm,
think for me, and it so easily goes in the spirit of what we do in this podcast. Every retreat is different. I've hosted so many at this point. Some are international, some are, at my vacation home. We've done three of those, I think, now at my vacation property in the central Idaho mountains. And there there are so many times that there's a part of my, if you will, the human range of Jill, which is like this. And then there's the source range of us, which doesn't have a limit, is the way that I look at it. It's like limitless and super wide. There's parts of including this one this year where I was everybody's already here, came from so many corners of the world, including as far away as the UK to Boise, Idaho,
mm,
Canada, across the US, etc. Some of the clients I'd met before and they willingly and gladly come on my trips and come to my retreats and have been working alongside me for years. And some I'd worked alongside with as clients, etc., but I've never met them in person. So there's this nice collection of that, but it's a huge responsibility.
mm.
They've invested time and money in coming all this way so that those human layers of Jill are just like, oh my God, what if it's not great? What if we don't have any good messages? What if there's nothing new and expansive and transcendent for them? And we're just kind of sitting around talking like we would on a vacation, like at, any other kind of friend gathering. So there was a part of me going, I mean, if it's that, I'll make it great. But I mean, there's a part of my Jill that is always incredibly humble about, there may not be anything epic in terms of the message delivery part of what we're also going to be doing. Because we did two messages a day where I'm recording with an audio recorder and I'm sharing and they're right there. So I share and then we have some Q&A and dialogue. And then we break and do super fun activities and we eat together and go out to dinner at night and all these things. So we have a morning session of messages and then an afternoon session. They're really not that more than an hour and a half per. So there's a whole bunch of other time of truly just enjoying each other, ourselves in this beautiful location. So that first message, I, got up in the morning, got ready, met everybody downstairs, and I was just like in my house, right, in my vacation home, and I was just like, let's just see what happens. And I took a couple breaths and invited them to, and I started recording. And it's like that wider range of me. It's almost like a speaker's forum. It's just like, awesome. Now we can share more. So I, as my human Jill, am sort of off involved, but a little bit to the side while I'm waiting to hear and listening along with them what we are about to say. And that never gets old for me, that whole experience. And as my human Jill is sort of like, oh my God, that's good. That's good. So we had 10 total messages from the 4-day experience. And I'm still transformed by even the process of what humanity is capable of in this time. I don't want that to just be for amazing philosophers and spiritual teachers of ancient times. I know and I experience what it's like to be inspired with ideas and words that can be articulated that are not separate from my humanness. They're a part of my humanness. And I'm a mechanism and a tool of a broader set of ideas. And well, what about this? And maybe you guys want to know about this. Would that be helpful? Would this be helpful? Did you know this? Right? So, one of the messages went into very specific detail about what I call the Atlantean timelines from Atlantis, which was more than one civilization at more than one time. And I've talked about it before in other messages and other courses I've taught, but the level of specificity was so insightful, educational, amazingly informative, and also applicable in terms of us as in our modern day humanness, those of us that are trying to be savvy and aware are really maybe too quick to be like, those are the good guys, those are the bad guys, I've got it. And sometimes it's very nuanced. And those that appear as the nefarious ones are actually trying to do something really beautiful and very unique, and it didn't go well, or they ran into a snag in the plan and they really were befuddled as to how to handle it. So we took a good amount of time, I think it was message 8, talking about that. And I love that part because I love clarity. I really appreciate history, and I deeply acknowledge on a soul level of me, humans tend to get history really, really wrong. Who's writing the history? Because there's what happened, there's what you think, what they think, and what really happened, and it's somewhere in the middle. So I appreciated that insight. I do feel like there's some sort of symmetry and corollary between what did happen and what I know is the Atlantean timeline, and what's happening now in terms of a really grand plan for something fantastic that, okay, these participants aren't playing the role they promised to play. What are we going to do about that? And can we kick them out? Can we force them? I mean, what are our options here? So that was wonderful. But in terms of overall transformation, I don't think I'll ever stop being transformed by the process of what we're capable of. And these are very, let's just say experienced, savvy spiritual experiencers that tend to come all the way to my retreats. And when they're like, I need to listen, can't wait to listen to that again. And we just, we're eating lunch and just talking about our favorite parts. And oh my God, when this came through in that message and when you asked that question, and we're just like dialoguing it in a really, really fun, light-hearted way. It's not heavy. It's serious, but it's also super playful. um it's just like, okay, we more than delivered. So that part of my Jill going, I don't know if they came all this way for, I don't know if we're actually going to be able to, I don't know if it's actually going to happen the way we all want it to happen. And then when it always does, there's just a part of me going, that's so cool that we are so supported when we show up. And there's more there's
Mm.
more than the support even that we could hope for better ideas, better insights, amazing clarity on different ways to handle grief. Little aspects of, not little, important aspects of grief came up for me and another participant that had lost somebody very close to us very unexpectedly, both to cancer. There was just some beautiful, loving, compassionate insights that came through in different ways too. So I'm just in the process of gathering all the recordings and the transcriptions and the summaries, and then sending them out to the participants and then making them available for others. But yeah, uh, yeah. Mm.
Mm. Let's take a few breaths and I'll just there's so much when somebody has an event like that, there's so much that's offered to everyone, right? Because that's what you're putting in the field, so to speak, right? That's what you're offering. And so let's just take a few moments here, just a few breaths, and then we can reflect on some of the things that you shared about. Ooh, one more deep one. And see if you can breathe into your whole body, even your back, the back of your spine, your whole body to breathe. Wow. So thank you for sharing that. I first wanted to comment about just the creative process because I know for me, there seems to be that human doubt, which can be mixed with fear, which can be mixed with a lot of different feelings that we wouldn't necessarily consider helpful, the more negative ones. And my experiences is that when I show up, and I heard you talk about this, when I show up with that level of humility and openness, that the bigger me that's always here shows up with me in a greater capacity. And there's a little bit of kind of not allowing those human aspects to have the floor, I'll say, where they get to just witness to an experience. They're not separate, they're all here, but there's something about having those greater aspects really have the floor. And this applies to every single aspects of our life, every single one at home or at work and social situations. And I love when I allow that creativity to come through and that I can be surprised and delighted by it. And that really builds muscles and really creates a level of faith. And that is so beautiful. It's just extraordinary. I mean, and I love that you had it. I kind of follow the cycles of Gaia and nature and all that. And, you had your retreat during the longest day of the year, where the light is here the longest in terms of how the sun, emanates on our earth.
I
I
remember,
love
I
it.
just want to interrupt, only for the Northern Hemisphere.
Oh, only for the
It's
northern.
important to
That's
think about
that's right. That's right.
that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Which is where you were.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Which is where you were. And so those things too, there's like a ebb and a flow. And to me, that just allows the in and out and the spiral of creation. There's different possibilities in that. And that's also really cool to me. And also, when you talked about Atlantis and the history, and history does cycle around until it kind of evolves, right? Like it's sort of like my patterns repeat until they don't.
Mm,
And I think we do that as a society and as a world as well. And we cycle around. And just like you shared with what came through, are we still doing that? And what do we do now?
mm,
And we have an opportunity every time that happens to allow more of our greater selves to be present and come up with new ideas and new ways to sort of infuse it with more love light, which shifts the whole experience for everybody.
yeah. I want to offer something there that actually did come up in another part of the retreat, because I think part of my role in what I allow myself to be in this reality, and I think what I designed myself to be, um, from the range of my soulfulness is a, a very intentional challenger of current belief systems,
Mhm.
even within metaphysical communities.
Mm.
So it's very real to me that a transcendent view, or should I say another transcendent view, is that cycles don't have to repeat. They don't have to come around again. And any human, any society, any individual, even as their individual, as their one, can say, I I'm totally done with this pattern.
Mhm.
And if it does come around again, that's fine. But you could address it in a totally new way. You could re-experience it, you could rethink it, whatever. But you can also just sort of declare, like when we were talking about before, when I was, what was it, 16, and I'm like, I'm tired of being the doormat to my friends and who the people I'm calling my friends. How about that? That was dramatic, and it did change the trajectory of my life. I reset who and what I was in that moment. And I elected to keep if you will, the new experimental patterns of not being someone else's doormat and maybe being less helpful and kind a little bit in the process, but sometimes doormat energy, people taking advantage of you and being nice and kind can kind of go together. Anyway, so I just want to offer that to people that even with cycles that, well, are they meant to go around and, we're going to, get to experience them again, or until they get to a 0 point frequency? There's a lot of ideas, a lot of transcendent ideas. And I just want to offer to people that cycles also don't have to repeat here. And to me, as our soulfulness, we've experimented and created many different situations within space and time, and have gone, actually, did anyone enjoy that? Does anyone find that beneficial? No. Okay, let's not do that again. And so it doesn't get a life of its own where it's in some sort of an orbital rotation that's going to come around again. So I just wanted to offer that also.
I love that you brought that forward because I'll say it in a different way.
Yeah, please.
So that's so true. Like, we don't have to continue doing what we did. And sometimes we do, and we do until we don't. And there's so many options within that, and there's a lot of factors that that's dependent upon.
Yeah.
And and so it's kinda like this, like, sometimes it's you could see it as say it as the layers of the onion. You could look at it as the spiral of creation, how it's like we come around to that same point again, and we're like, "Oh, different choices," right? And then we do something else. Or what can happen is this level of experience of reality, literally reality, can be dropped. And it's almost as if you disengage here and then you pick, it could be anywhere. Usually it's a higher vibration, so to speak, because we like better options and better versions, right? That have more joy and more unconditional love. So when we disconnect, that allows, and some people call that 0 point, right? You kind of go into the void, you go into optionville, where you can have all these different choices, and then you kind of re-engage at a different level and different frequency bandwidth and different version of yourself. And that literally has the experience of being reincarnational when I drop many different ways of being at the same time. A lot of different parts of myself are upgraded, and I'm literally not who I was in a significant way enough that people notice. And they're like, wow. And I notice, and I don't react. I'm more loving. I have more light. There's a lot of obvious signs that we've shifted significantly. And it is true. That's when we're just done. And that is so powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm always on an evolutionary journey. I mean, those of you that hear me, it's like, oh, what's shifting today and how big and in what way and how cool is it, right? Because I always seem to find a perspective that's life giving and affirming and more alive because that's who I am and I don't want to live any other way. And so these are the options and these are the things I've noticed and these are the things I support people with. And sometimes it starts as a little seed, that a little idea that's like, whoa. And there can be one simple belief that can lock that old way in place. And when I find that and say, that's not true for me anymore,
Yeah.
and so much can be released, so much can be shifted. And that could be sometimes a little emotional outburst. It could be a belief shift. It could be just a perspective. It
Mhm.
could be just turning and looking at it from a different angle, which is perspective. There's a lot of different ways that can happen. And sometimes it's sitting with somebody else and witnessing that they're doing something different. And I'm like, I'm taking that for me because that looks really good. And I like that version.
I agree. It's exciting to consider how much change we're capable of that is not dependent on a cycle outside of ourselves or another person growing and evolving or changing in any way. There's so much to work with within ourselves, um, and I love little reminders of, as you know, we go through different chapters of our lives and create new chapters of our lives and create ourselves within every chapter of our lives. There's just so much opportunity, and I love experiences where we can, really. I like the verb workshop that, and for I think for both of us, Janet, that's partly what we do in client sessions because all of us, I know me included, I won't speak for you, have areas of our life. It's like, this could be smoother. This could be smoother. And I'm not the type of person that wants to let anything hit rock bottom before I have some major revelation about, oh, wow, am I missing a way of looking at this that empowers me more to be experiment, even just with a different version of myself amidst that pattern. um, I love to remain curious and experimental and authoritative over myself. What do I want to be? What are my choices in this situation? So thank you for going into that individual part of that angle,
Yeah.
because I think that that is really the most important one. In terms of empowerment, which has been a consistent theme for both of us in this podcast series and individually as we are here, um, for anyone that says things like, well, I've had trouble with relationships and relationships with money or relationships romantically or feeling connected with friends, um, and I'm still in this pattern, so I know the next person I meet is probably not going to be the one because I haven't gone through all the, I haven't perfected it yet. I need to go through more revolutions of that before I make it better. I would just offer them, do you want to believe that's true? That you're 5 relationships away from getting it good? Do you want to believe that you're 3 more, financial crises away from feeling financial abundance and freedom? Do you want that to be true? Because a transcendent view is, I want to really explore this, not study it, not work on it, explore. It's a totally different energy pattern. I know it's just a word, but it's not semantics.
Mhm.
We talked a lot about words and thoughts and ideas and the power of those,
Yeah.
not in a law of attraction way, because it's not specifically tied to an expected outcome, but it's directly tied to the experience you'll be having amidst those thoughts. So, exploring yourself amidst those stickier, less smooth parts of your life can be very valuable, can be very surprising. It doesn't have to be painful, right?
Yeah.
And I just, for anyone that's looking for any sort of assistance with that, trust us that Janet and I are regularly assisting people with things that are not dire. They're not like, oh my God, it's not a 911 phone call. It's a, I just feel like I don't have this part right.
Mhm.
And meeting with either of us provides complete illumination and enlightenment and complete inspiration. and anything else you want from it, healing, etc. I'm not big on the words releasing and shifting, because to me it's so 3D, and I feel like I want a more transcendent, beyond space-time experience, that you're recreating yourself amidst these patterns that we're talking about. But no matter what words you're drawn to, the ability to reset yourself and recreate yourself amidst that pattern, it why would you wait? And some people are like, well, wow, I don't know how much your sessions are, but whether it's 220 or 180 or $100, that sounds like a lot of money. For peace of mind in something that matters to you, it's priceless.
I've really been aware of how the creative flow, that life force energy that's within us and without us, it's everywhere. It's always available. And that's that transformational essence that can alchemize
Mm.
and create anew so simply. And that is powered. I've been very aware of inner power, I want to say. It's everywhere, but there's such a temptation. Even when I was thinking about whether I wanted coffee this morning or any type of caffeine, and I thought, do I really think that that power outside of me, that thing, like what is my relationship here? Those things, they're helpful if I allow my inner, if to support my inner power and my own creational ability inwardly, but not as something that I need outside of me for me to have power. And so I've been breaking down, it's been a natural kind of organic process of really looking at those more subtle or those very obvious or different layers of beliefs about how I think I have to be outward sourced with power. And that's a very, very vital, life giving, life changing thing to examine
Mm.
because it allows that infinite power that is built in, it's wired. It's always been here. And it's like I haven't noticed it or been able to access it for whatever reason. And when that creativity is powered by the pureness of source frequency, God, whatever you want to call that universal life force energy, things are possible that our minds haven't even imagined yet.
Mm.
And that can kind of wipe a lot of old belief systems, which is one of the reasons that it works for me to meditate, to be still in that place and realize that I don't need anything on the outside, really. I interact with it, I nourish my body, but really I'm a self sustaining entity here, whole and complete. And that also is true with my physical body as different parts of me become more flexible and I learn to breathe into different parts of my body. And that is a phenomenal experience because then I have more sensory awareness. I have more ability to be aware in a very helpful sense. And that helps that creativity and that power to flow more freely through my physical body, which automatically heals it because our bodies are meant to self heal. So there's so many applications. Ideas come easier.
Mhm.
I'm way less reactive. I'm creating. I'm not responding. I'm creating. So there's a lot with this.
I am so pleased to hear you describe. I feel like you're far more thoughtful about all of that than I am. And I like that there's so many, speaking of creator energy, there's so many ways to do this. I can just sense that you take a lot of that part of the mind body spirit more seriously and more devotedly than I do. And it's I also like the fact that I'm not looking at it as I should do it that way, and I'm also not looking at it
Mhm.
as you shouldn't do it that way.
Mm.
So I like that. I want to just give
Mhm.
voice to that for people that um I think for some of us in spiritual communities we can experience a message and a conversation like this in a way of shoulds and shouldn'ts. And I really would just love people to kind of loosen up from that ideology that
Uh,
Janet's giving you an example of what works great for her. And I love that about you. And just to make sure I understand, are you saying I mean, to put it kind of in a nutshell on the coffee part, are you experimenting with not having coffee in the morning?
um, well, I had caffeine this morning. I'm just
Okay.
becoming more aware of it and noticing where my thoughts
Okay.
might be a little askewed
Yeah.
that are not supporting my own body in a way and owning the power within.
Nice. So it sounds like there's a goal of exploring the relationship that you have with caffeine at that time of day. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and how to work with it in a better way so I can be more of who I am and not be,
Yeah.
be more full,
Yeah.
full and complete, because that's my
Yes.
goal,
Do
right?
you have I'm going to use the word judgment, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Do you have a judgment about caffeine in the morning and whether that's healthy or not healthy for you, or are you more neutral about it?
Um, I don't have a judgment about it. I will say, though, that I have gotten into patterns or habits that because I feel my body changing so much right now, I feel like it needs a little bit more attentiveness just to see if it's, I have this at this time of day, or I feel a little sluggish, drink coffee, right? Like that kind of that's what's kind of, up for consideration now
Okay.
because there's different ways to be sustained and supported
Yeah.
that I wanna be open to,
Yeah.
that's pure source based. And I think in my mind, I've
Hmm.
thought it had to come from that,
Okay.
and then I'm like, "No, like, that supports this."
Right. That's awesome. And I think I kind of feel like I take the maybe a cheater route, and I'm just, self-deprecating humor here. Um, I'm I'm very I'm just going to say thoughtless about a lot of things that I do in terms of food and nutrition and things like that. So I
Mm,
don't even I mean, I have gone through experiences of, Jill, you should really experiment with like a low carbohydrate, no processed sugar kind of experience. And I did have amazing results when I've done that. But I came to that because for me, I was in a state of, discord and things were not going well
mm,
physically for me. Or, I mean, I was still high functioning, but I knew I could do better and I wanted to do better. And it wasn't comfortable. So I've experimented for things, and now I'm at a state where I have other sort of support systems that work really well for me, where I don't even hesitate to have coffee in the morning. And if at 3 p.m. I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to be up for another 6 hours, I think I will have a cold brew right now. But so I just and I mean, just to be really funny, I was talking with another member of the spiritual community who's a close friend, and we were on the phone as friends, and I said, I am at McDonald's waiting for my order to be brought out to me, and I'm just being totally honest. And I think she was actually in shock. She was like, oh my God, Jill. And she just, she laughed, and it was so funny. And I was like, I'm just being transparent. I don't feel the need to hide it. But she did say, she said, I think she said, I don't even know what to do. I'm sort of shocked that you're eating McDonald's right now. And I'm like, oh, babe, I eat it like 5 or 6 times a week. So again, there's that, thread of rebelliousness in me of
yeah,
even earlier on when, in 2010, 2011, it may have been more so for me anyway. That way, my experience with the spiritual community is we all need to be vegan and no one should have this, and nosy wosy to this, and we all want to do that. This is the right way, and these are the wrong ways. And anyone eating animal-based proteins, you heathens, you know what I mean, you're so low vibe. And there was a lot of judgment about that. And there was just a part of me with my connection already going, I don't know if that's true, or I don't know if that's true for me. And can I explore being this, version of expanded individual, which I know us all to be capable of an amazing expansion, even if we're not trying to be. We allow, uh, wideness and insight and inspiration. It doesn't have to be attempted or manipulated, and it doesn't require any sort of diet. So I experimented with that, and I'm going, up, I'm still good. And I eat all these ways that people tell me not to eat, or that I'm not supposed to eat to do this work. So anyway,
I
we're
love
just
this.
given different paths, Janet.
Well, well, okay. So just because that was true for me now, there's something about it with the way my body's operating that my bigger self is wanting me to be
Yeah,
aware of.
I love
That-
it. I hope that didn't come across as you're doing anything wrong. I
No,
love it. That okay,
no,
good.
I
I'm
I
listening.
want to tell you some other things
Okay,
that
good,
are
good, good.
going on, right?
Yeah.
Because I very much know for myself and those I've supported, what I eat varies to a huge degree. And there have been periods in my life, and this is all about paying attention to what I need right now.
Mm.
And
That's
there
good.
are times in my cycle where I have been squeaky clean with food, and everybody's got their version of what squeaky clean means, right? I don't need to go into that, right? Whether it's veganism or whatever it is, organic or, whatever it is. And all that can be overridden. And I mean, I didn't eat meat for a long time because I felt crappy when I ate it. That's a good reason not to eat meat.
That's a
Now,
great reason not to eat meat. Yes.
I'll tell you my, McDonald-like story. I was at the grocery store the other day, and I was like, "I want some chicken tenders." And I was
From the
like,
deli with ranch dressing.
"Alright, yeah, from the deli." And I was like, "Alright, I'm gonna have let's see, how many do I want?" And I was like, "Okay." So I had, I don't know, like, and the woman was very thoughtful how she picked them out, and she grabbed 2 gigantic chicken tenders. And they were quite
Oh,
tasty, and I enjoyed
that's so
them.
good. Yeah.
And then the next day, I thought, "I'm gonna have it again," and so I got them from somebody else, and I was like, "Oh, these aren't as good. I probably didn't eat them, right? And so I do believe that we have the capacity to not be affected in negative ways by things, but it's very situational. And some people have mastered certain ways of being where things don't bother them, and some people are not in that place. So
Mhm.
I really advocate self-awareness, and I think the joy of me eating those chicken tenders and the crunchy, greasy,
Mhm.
like, I think that overrid anything that could have a negative consequence from one lens to my
Yeah.
body. And I don't wanna make it like when I hear you talk, I was like, "Well, Janet's clean." I was like, "No, I'm real, and I'm I'm very much about what's true in this moment
Yeah.
and trying to be aware because joy will override certain things." And there's sometimes where I am on such a straight and narrow path that I get to pay attention to that too. And there's other times it's like, I know, and I feel it, like, I know I can eat anything and it doesn't matter. And there's
Mhm.
other things that I just don't, I don't enjoy how that is with my body, the
Yeah.
experience, 'cause my body reacts in certain ways. Like
Right.
dairy, I get very phlegmy and I hate it, right? So I can eat it, but I don't
Yeah.
like it. So
Yeah.
the crusty wheat based probably MSG in the chicken nuggets or chicken tenders,
Oh,
it
yeah.
that was
Sure.
fine on that day, right?
Yeah. That's I love, and thank you for also I think I heard you say something about some people have mastered the ability to eat things that are, categorically less than ideal for their bodies. and there's a part of me that wants to offer an edit, and I hope this doesn't come across as rude to you at all, Janet.
Mm,
I'm guessing though that some people might hear that as it's
mm,
better to have a system that can be more tolerant of things like McDonald's. And I just want to offer to anyone, if you have, you are your own one.
yes.
And if you are feeling led to eat cleaner and you're horrified too, like my friend Kristen, that I'm eating McDonald's, I love you and I respect you. And if you guys cooked everything, and if I ate only what you guys ate, I probably would be even more happy and sustained and healthier version of my Jill. I totally believe that. I don't believe that I am capable of taking a donut and telling my body it's capable of being, a Brussels sprout. Personally, I don't believe that. So there are healthier ways, but somehow it is working for me now. But for those listening or watching this that are like, I can't do that, then please don't do it. And don't feel like I'm somehow better, that I can handle that and still be fine and, go to my golf lesson later today. It's I really want to
Mm.
support all of us having a self-respect and a self-awareness of what works for us and what doesn't work for us. Some of you can listen to, really new agey kind of didgeridoo music. It will send me climbing up the walls. I can't stand it. But I can handle McDonald's. I mean, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? And again, there isn't. I'm just trying to be funny. But we all have our areas where we can just handle it all, and other areas where like I have a narrow lane of comfort on that and I just got to stick with it. Then stick with it and advocate for yourself based on self-love. Does that help, Janet?
Well, and
Because
I
I
think
feel more masterful eating McDonald's, I can assure you.
I guess what it is I don't like to take, anything too seriously to some degree,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna cause myself harm,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
can color outside the lines when I need to,
Yeah.
and I think that kind of permission-based living makes a big difference, and generally, I eat fairly clean food because I find that I feel better when I do, and it doesn't mean I don't buy, like,
Yeah.
cookies because I just ordered from Vitacost, right? I was like, "Oh, I like these, like and they're clean in my body, they're
I was
fine."
gonna say they're probably the good kind of cookies. They're not little
You know
Debbie. They're not my
you know,
little Debbie snack cakes that are in my pantry right now.
but everybody's so different, and,
We are.
I think the lack of judgment I'll go back to this. The lack of judgment really, really matters, and if I eat something and I find that it was a complete disaster because I feel, like, really awful, then I pay attention and,
Okay, good.
because I don't like to recreate that. But,
That's good.
you know
I mean, and thinking about another way, maybe being really judgmental about what one consumes or not is also just the right way to go. I respected the fact that my friend had a judgment about me eating McDonald's, and I love it that she didn't just go, "Oh yeah, I haven't had that in 10 years." But I mean, I knew how she felt about it, and I'm still thinking about it, obviously. And maybe there is a little whisper from her soulfulness of to mine, like, "I know you can, Jill, but do you want to? Is it really worth it? Whatever." Anyway, I just love the idea. I love rebellious ways of being our light in this reality, because there are rules and some of them are there for a great reason, but they don't always apply to you. And it never made sense to me that veganism is 100% for everybody. And I do respect clean eating. I just don't currently practice it, but I'm not going to lie to you guys, right? That's not the type of practitioner I want to be. But when I stocked the food for the retreat, I had a sense of what they'd be looking for, and I was right. In terms of like, oh, they're going to want, and sometimes I do too, the pasture raised
Mm,
organic eggs. I was like, I know what I prefer in eggs, even though I eat this other nonsense stuff I call food. Anyway, I knew that they'd want organic, whole milk yogurt, or anyway. So stocking the food was easy because I know that mindset that's more common with my friends. I mean, they're my friends too. And somebody was like, "Do you have like, Linderball chocolates?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." Those are a bit more Frankenfood-ish, and they're delicious, and I had those as well.
Oh, there's so many choices here on this
So many
planet, and
choices, and I appreciate that, and I know we're starting to wrap up here, but I just hope everybody hears permission that if you feel led to, if you feel great that you've given up coffee in the morning, I am so happy for you. And if you're like, is she telling us to get rid of our coffee? I didn't hear Janet say that at all. I know I didn't say that. But if you feel like maybe you want to try giving up coffee in the morning and doing mushroom powdered stuff in water, I think you may want to try it and see if you have more energy or whatever. To me, our lives are an experiment,
yeah.
and
I will share
everybody's going to be different. Yeah, go ahead.
everybody's gonna be different. I will share coffee has, typically made me jittery for
Oh,
decades,
really?
right?
Okay.
So I've usually gone decaf, but what I have discovered, and this is for people that know me, know I generally have a stash of this. I have some organic dark chocolate covered espresso beans.
Mm,
And those have been manna for me. They have been something that I can, for anybody that gets jittery with caffeine and can't tolerate, coffee very well, or
mm,
it's acidic or whatever, there's something about those things that have been just magic for me. So coffee is different than my espresso beans. As a matter of fact, I had this knowing that they're a local place where I get them. I knew they were gonna run out of stock of those, and I was like, "Yeah," and I
mm,
was like, "Oh, I wonder if I'm done eating those." Then I was like, "I don't think I am." So I found a better, I think, quality espresso bean online with even cleaner ingredients that I'm very excited about, and I ordered them, and I hope they don't melt on the way because it's warm here, but anyway, that's a option, and so, for me, I find great joy, and I think there's a real groundedness in coffee beans for me. There's something about that where I feel I don't know, I feel it, and I feel more
mhm,
me with it, and I feel more connected to our earth and Gaia with it,
mm.
and I'm not gonna deny myself that
That's
pleasure
so
and that
cool.
joy, and I love chocolate. That
Yeah,
also does something. It's probably dopamine, serotonin
could
connected,
be. Yeah.
and I'm
I've
okay with
given it up before, and I didn't miss it when I was a devout keto.
mm,
Whole Foods version of keto, not the processed version. But yeah, and it's again, I love the fact that I do feel like you have a huge amount of self-awareness related to yourself and food and Gaia that I literally don't have.
mm,
I have no idea if certain things I'm doing or not doing make me more or less connected to Gaia. So I just like, oh, that's so cool that not only does Janet know, like you know it and you live it in that way.
mm,
Now that
mm.
makes me less connected to Gaia. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Very
one's
cool.
not right and one's not wrong, and that's what
Yeah.
I love just about our conversation in general because we really like, this is so important to each of us. It's like, so if
Yes.
you fall here and you fall here, and if this sounds better or there's something in between, it's like, let's see. It's a choice because there's lots of times I'm not conscious, but when I get little inklings about things,
Hmm.
and it doesn't matter because that's where a lot of times I'll go on, I want to say, higher self autopilot
Hmm.
where I'm not even thinking, I'm just basically living, and that's stuff I trust, and there
Hmm.
doesn't need to be a mind process around it, there
Hmm.
doesn't need to be that, and that's kind of another way of viewing it.
Yeah. Maybe this is the next podcast we do because this is what I'm about to say. I do kind of like the idea of really playing with the rules that maybe we heard kind of
Mm,
when we started out, if you will, because it was, I mean, in my experience anyway, it was very emphatic about no, you cannot be a channeler and eat meat. I mean, you cannot drink alcohol. You can't, there were so many almost like stereotypical, almost like caricatures of what it meant to be spiritually connected. And there was anyway, I would love to maybe tee that up as the
let's
next
do it.
conversation we had. I think that could be really, and hopefully it's fun and playful for people to go, oh my God, because it's very possible somebody in the audience is like, oh my God, I still thought that was true. and you get to decide if it is or it isn't. So I have some ideas for things to share there.
Oh, I love that because it's again, it has that feel of somebody said something, it's true, so I'm gonna follow it as a rule, like you just said, and I was like, "Ooh, anytime we can, like, let's shine some light on that and not,
Yeah.
that's my favorite thing." Oh, that's so good. Thank you so
Thanks
much,
ever.
Jill,
Thanks
for
ever.
sharing about your
Yeah.
retreat and
Thank you for asking.
all the beautiful experiences that it sounds like you had with that, and I'm sure it was extraordinary.
And I'm inspired to do more. So I mean, I was literally online this morning going, okay, so do I just pop one on again for next year, in the same place, or do we
Yeah.
do a 4-day retreat somewhere else? And I'm not going to say where because I have great ideas that I sometimes am like, no, never mind. And I don't, then 2 years later, they're like, so when's Machu Picchu happening? I'm like, oh yeah, I know. Anyway, so I'm not going to say where my ideas are right now, but anyway, I just love to get it together in person. And people may not realize Janet and I have never. Oh no, we did meet in person in Arizona because I came to like your area, and I'm
So
glad I
stop
did.
and remember, I met
Yeah.
you first in LA. A friend of mine,
Oh my God,
remember Robin?
how did I forget
And
that?
I remember you were so, like, chic. You were, you're tall and you had these black boots on, and we were in this kinda dark room. It was black. It was
In a
a kind of a
hotel.
yeah, it was no, it wasn't. I don't know what it was, but it was interesting. I think it
Oh,
was
that theater place.
yes.
Oh my God, Janet. Yes.
And it was like it kinda had like a funk vibe to it, and here Jill's in her
Good.
big black boots and, like, long legs, and you were just I was like, "Who's this woman?" That's the first
Was
time.
that the first time we met? Was LA?
That's the first time, yeah.
Because I was actually wondering if it was the John Burgos event that he and I did a joint kind of presentation in
No,
LA,
no,
and then
no,
we also did one in New York City. But
that
anyway,
was that was that, and then afterwards, it was in Scottsdale. That's when I met you.
oh, Janet, thank you for reminding me. That's so big. I
Yeah,
love you so much. It's so cool. Anyway, it's cool that we've met, and yeah, oh God,
yeah,
and I
we
love that we're
cycled
doing this together.
I
Yeah.
know, and that was how long ago? That was I don't know.
Oh God, 2014, 15, maybe.
Yeah, that
I
was a long
think
time ago. Yeah, that
one may
probably
have
was.
been 18, but I think it was like 15, 16 timeframe.
Yeah, that was such a blast. Oh,
It's so good. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting and all those things. It does help the algorithm. Um, we do recommend listening or watching more than one time, taking
yes.
notes. I know on my YouTube videos, Janet, you might do the same thing. I do take care to create specific subtitles that are from a great system I use. I don't, YouTube sometimes doesn't do well on the automated closed captioning. So I
Mm,
upload a whole separate file for that. And Janet, if you don't do that, let me know and I can send that to you every time. But it tends to do pretty well with that. So for those of you that are very visual word wise, English language wise,
mm,
that could be helpful too. But there's just my intention, I believe, is true that we are offering so much width in terms of energy, far beyond the words, far beyond what we even look like when we're saying it. There's just a lot of energy that we're offering you, and I do hope that it's useful to you. So thank you,
mhm.
everybody. Thanks again,
Yes,
Janet.
thank you. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.